on. Welcome back to Don't Pick the Box. Today it's something extra special. It's not a subscription box, but a husband mystery box. I was very surprised. I don't know what's inside, and I'm very curious, so let's get to it. But first, let's read what Common Cat has to say. I had this collecting dust in my drawer. Okay. He really put a lot of effort into it. He drew a Common Cat here and some sort of froggy here that says open here, so we'll do that. Ooh. Even now, I want, as always, for you to have the first view. So, all wrapped up in lovely bubbles. I love how it's not, I mean, obviously this is not like bought material, but he really put a lot of effort into creating the mystery box or the subscription box look. Even though he really didn't have to use paper towels, we actually have wrapping paper, but it's cute. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, I don't know if you can see all this, but we have a lot of colors, a lot of lovely Staedtler calligraphy pens. Let's show them to you. So we have a small chisel nib, and a bullet tip. Oh, all of them in lovely. Wait, maybe I should put this box aside, and that will be. I'm going to put the box aside, and then pull everything out and show it. That'll be a lot easier. So we have a lot of markers, Staedtler calligraphy markers. That's cute. Next we have Sakura Pigma calligraphy. Nice. And lastly, a pad of Sumi ink painting paper. Alright. That is, none of these is something I'm familiar with. I mean, I know these brands, but I've never used these pens. And I don't know what my husband intended, whether it was for me to try something new, because he didn't give any comment or instructions. But yeah, first, swatchy time. And no, I will swatch in my book, because if this seems like very fancy paper. Wood pulp and bamboo, 208 grams. It's going to be rather thick. Okay, first I'll swatch. First, maybe let's swatch these. The Sakura Pigma markers. I have some other pens of this brand, the Pigma liners, which are very very well inked, very how should I put it? I mean, they're black pens, and obviously they're black, but they're also quite fade resistant, and they work very well. I'm very happy with them. They have a very nice nib to work with, so I'm expecting the same from this. But obviously we'll have different nib sizes because that's the whole point of a calligraphy pen. Let's start with. They do look quite different though, so let's just hope we get at least the same ink and that we have quality nibs. This is very, very fine. This is the finest one, yes. So the size 10. But even here, it's not a bullet point. It really is like a miniature chisel. But when I try to use it sideways, it's very fine. I'm not even sure it will show up on camera. It's very fine, but also quite scratchy. It works best apparently when I use the full length and broad of the chisel. Okay, line work is okay. Next we have 20 is already quite a big difference. You get an equally fine line with the side of the chisel, and either they need some warming up, or they are not as juicy as the liners that I'm used to of this brand. But the lines that they make are actually quite nice. Yes. And lastly, I'm expecting a really, really thick one now. It is. So we get a somewhat thicker line when I use the side of the nib, but it's a see once again, it's almost like I have to start the pen before I get like a full stroke, but then after that the stroke is actually quite nice. Okay, I must say, maybe it's just because I've been laying down too long, I don't know. The other liners that I have of this brand seem to be a little juicier, but maybe this is, I don't know if this is intentional, because for calligraphy obviously you don't want splotches, and then a juicy pen might actually be a nuisance, because calligraphy also, you don't do that really fast. You normally write slowly and carefully. So maybe it's intentional that these aren't as juicy because these are intended for a slow hand. And maybe I'm just too fast. I don't know. Not something I'm used to be called too fast, but you never know. Next, all these lovely colors. How many do we get actually? It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They're all doubles, jewel tipped. And they have, I'm going to show you, like here, you see, the chisel, this is a chisel tip. And the chisel tip has a small band alongside the barrel to indicate that here is the chisel tip. And then at the bullet tip, you just have, it's not a bullet tip, it's actually also a chisel tip, but a smaller one. So that's actually quite handy because, well, it also shows on the barrel which side is a small side and which one is the broad nib. But if you really need to be quick, you have an indication, or if the writing is on the other side of the barrel from your viewpoint, you have a really quick indication of where where the broad side is. And by exclusion, you also know which is the small side. But now, enough talking. Swatchy time. Lovely colors, but not a standard 12 color selection, I think. We seem to have gotten no orange, which is very good because I don't like orange. But we also didn't get a dark blue, which is really weird because that's something that you would really expect, especially in a calligraphy set, because that's intended for writing, and blue is, I think, a color that you would use a lot. But then we did get a teal, which is very pretty. We get a sienna, not something that I really like, but I feel that this would be a color that is very usable in calligraphy. We did get a lot of purplish colors, because the color that is on the outside, very purple, is sort of a pale reddish purple. The pink leans towards purple, and then the dark purple is really pretty. The yellow really is quite muted, more of an ochre color, which is why I wrote ochre and not yellow. The colors themselves are quite pretty. I'm also quite happy that we got a gray, because I think that will come in very handy if you want to shade your letters or give them some sort of a shadow or a backdrop. I feel like these are very useful colors, but not the ones that I would have anticipated, either from a 12 set of markers, any sort of markers. These are not the colors that I would have picked for a calligraphy set, nor the ones that I would have expected in a calligraphy set, but all the more a surprise, I should say. And now let's think of something to draw. Oh, I haven't said anything about this paper yet. So it's made out of 60% rush. I don't know what rush is, I will have to look that up. 20% wood pulp and 20% bamboo. It feels almost like fabric, like cloth, not really like paper, because it's soft, but it's also textured. It's not necessarily very thick, but it feels quite heavy, considering the size. And also we get 15 sheets. It's natural white, so it's not bleached extra, which is good, both for your pens and for the environment. but it is intended for Sumi ink, so I don't know how Marcus will perform on this. Well, we'll check it out. Well, we're done. I'm kind of. I was going to say I was really, really happy with the markers. I still am. But I feel like they don't work very well with the paper that I got. And either it's because I'm not used to this type of markers, which is true because I have done some calligraphy, but that was usually with a pen and not with a marker. Or because this paper is absolutely unsuited for it, because the ink shows up very dark and bright on this paper, but this was not at all what I wanted. And it actually shows up a lot darker on this paper than on the paper that I swatched it on, which only goes to show that you should swatch on the paper that you intend to use. Good advice, which I never follow. So either I will have to work a little bit more with these markers to get a really good feel for them, because I feel that these are probably quite good markers, but that I didn't get the most or the best use out of them, which is always a little bit sad. And I still feel, which is again why I think that I might actually be using these things wrong, that the Sakura Pigma calligraphy markers we got, they continued to be very scratchy. When I did a little calligraphy almost 10 years ago, I tended to use a lot smoother paper, which works very well for calligraphy pens. This has one big drawback, that smoother paper is usually also a little bit thinner, and then you have to be very, very careful not to get any bleeding through your paper. As for the colors, as maybe you saw while I was drawing, these are in fact quite juicy, to the point of annoyance. actually, because this paper is intended for sumi ink, so it absorbs ink really well. But it was almost as if the paper was like sucking the ink out of the marker. So these are really juicy. It's actually quite nice. I mean, you don't always have to get like a standard box. It inspires you to do things differently if you get other colors. So big thumbs up and big thank you to my darling husband who put this box together. And let's maybe check lastly whether we got any bleeding. I really didn't dare because it was really like sucking the ink. Whoa! No bleeding whatsoever. Like absolutely nothing. So this is very quality paper. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think that's all. Yeah, bye!